In this video, I'm going to wrap up the installation of the software onto our Windows instance at Amazon Web Services. And then I'm going to show you how to create an Amazon machine image, an AMI, of your Windows server so that you can easily launch new instances that are already provisioned with the software that you've installed. What I'm looking at here is the start screen for the Windows 2012 server that we have created at Amazon Web Services. And to remind you, we can toggle between the start screen and the desktop by pressing and releasing the Windows key. So if I press and release the Windows key, I'll have the desktop. If I press and release it again, I'll flip back to the start screen. So if you are logged into your instance, you should be able to get to the start screen that I'm showing you now. Now, after the installation of all of our software, there will be a whole new collection of tiles over here on the right hand side that can be used to launch the various programs. But I want to look at our installation in just a little bit more detail. In particular, I want to pull up the screen that shows all the apps. So I'm going to put my cursor in a blank space on the start screen and then right click, and that will pull up this blue bar at the bottom that has this button which will allow me to list all of the apps. So now I'm going to look at the list of all of the apps and go through it in the order that we installed the software, just to make sure that there's software associated with each of those apps. So the first software that we installed was the ClamWin antivirus. So I'm going to go down here to the bottom and then move this slider over. And you'll see that there's a category here for the ClamWin antivirus with some things in it. The next thing that we installed was Clam Sentinel, and you can see that there's a category here for Clam Sentinel, also with 4 programs in it. The third piece of software that we installed was Anaconda Python, and here is the category for Anaconda Python. The 2 main programs we're going to use out of this list of programs is the Anaconda command prompt and also the Spider Ide. But you can see that there's a whole collection of programs that have been installed associated with Anaconda Python. The next thing that we installed was R, and you can see that there's a category here for R with 2 programs installed in it. They are the 32-bit version of R and the 64-bit version of R. So we are going to essentially always run the 64-bit version of R. Although we're not going to do that directly, we're going to run it through the IDE we're going to be using, which is RStudio. So you can see the category for RStudio right here, and here is the link for launching RStudio. The very last thing that we installed was Cygwin, and here is the category for Cygwin with 1 program installed, which is the Cygwin terminal. And this will give us access to a collection of Unix or Linux-like utilities which can be very convenient in handling a lot of different tasks, but in particular large data sets. So I've now examined the list of all apps to make sure that it appears that the programs have installed. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the start screen and launch some of these programs just to make sure that they work using the tiles on the start screen. So I'm going to press and release the Windows button, and that takes me back to the start screen. And the very first thing I'm going to try to launch is the Anaconda command prompt. So I'm going to go down here to its tile and click on it. And it appears to have run just fine. So let's just go ahead and type in conda and then space and info. And this will give me information about the version of Anaconda that has been installed. But the main thing is that the command prompt works, and a command that I run in that command prompt also works. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to press the Windows key again and release it, and now I'm going to try to run the Spider IDE. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and sometimes it takes a while for Spider to launch, so be patient. Once Spider launches, I should have an editor window over here on the left hand side, and I should have an IPython console over here on the lower right that appears to load correctly. So it looks like Spider is going to be working just fine. So I'll go ahead and X out of this. Now I'm going to go back to that start screen again and test RStudio. So here is the RStudio tile. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and RStudio has launched. It's possible that you will not see this window up here that says Untitled. This is the editor window in this particular IDE, but the console should have loaded and launched until you get this prompt that looks like a greater than sign. So it appears that RStudio is going to run correctly. So let me go ahead and X out of that, and then I'll press the Windows key and release it one more time, and I'll check that the Cygwin terminal works. So this tile is over here on the right hand side, and it appears to have launched. And I'm going to go ahead and run a command in it, and the one I'm going to run is ls, which stands for list, which lists out the files in a folder very much like the dir command in a Windows command prompt. And then I need to give this some options in order to see anything. So I've typed a space, and then I'm going to go dash and then capital A, small c, small f. And I get a collection of files listed out. So I've been able to run a command in the Cygwin command prompt, which is actually called a bash prompt. So that seems to work. So now I'm going to go ahead and click X on this. And so we have now done a little testing of all of the major programs that we have installed on this Windows instance. So what should you do if one of the programs does not appear to work? Well, I think the basic strategy is to uninstall the program and then reinstall it. You could, of course, terminate the instance and start with a completely fresh instance from scratch. Now, to uninstall programs on your Windows instance, hit and release the Windows key and then type Control for Control Panel, and go ahead and select the Control Panel button here. And you'll notice that under the Programs category it will say Uninstall a Program. And if you click on that link, you'll get the uninstall or change dialog that will allow you to remove programs. And I'm going to assume that you've probably used this before and not go into any more details about that. However, to be safe, I would also then go and remove the folders where the programs were installed, just to be absolutely certain that no data that's causing a problem is remaining on the computer. So I wanted to quickly review where the various programs are installed. If I click on the File Explorer and go to the local disk C, you'll see that in the root directory of C there's a folder for Anaconda Python and there's a folder for Cygwin. So when you uninstall both of those programs, navigate back here to the root folder of C and then actually delete those folders and make sure that everything is cleaned out. If you go into the Program Files folder, you'll see the folders for R and RStudio. So again, if you need to reinstall either R or RStudio, you can navigate here to C Program Files and then delete those folders. You will once again want to make absolutely sure that your virus software is turned off during the installs. And again, to do that, you click on this little up arrow to expose the system tray and then click on Clam Sentinel. And in the menu that appears, you'll see items for stopping and starting Clam Sentinel. So now I'm going to go ahead and log out of the instance, and I can do that very easily by just clicking on the X here in the little tab which is indicating that this is a remote desktop connection window. So if I just go ahead and click on that and then click OK, I will be disconnected from the remote desktop session. What you're looking at now is a browser window on my local notebook computer that is logged into AWS at aws.amazon.com, and I have navigated to the EC2 dashboard and then clicked on Instances. And this shows a list of all of my instances. If you've been following my videos, you should have only one instance, and it should be in the state running. I have more instances in the dashboard, of course, because I have been doing a variety of other things. Now, the instance that you've been working on, again, if you've been following the videos, is probably called instance number 1. The one that I've been working with in making this video is this instance 2015 Fall Prep. You have now provisioned your instance with all of the basic software that you're going to need to do data science. And what we should do now is to create what's called an Amazon Machine Image, or an AMI, that will allow us to launch other instances that already have all of that software on it. To say it another way, it's already been provisioned with the software that we're going to be using for doing data science. Now, to create an image, select in this square box that's on the left-hand side the instance that you want to work on. And you need to be a little careful here, because if you do have more than one instance, you can actually select more than one at once. And having more than one instance selected has caused me a lot of problems at various times. But you want to make sure that the only instance selected is the one that you have provisioned. So now what we're going to do is go to Actions and then to Image, and we're going to click on Create Image. Then we're going to go ahead and give the image a name, and I'm going to call this Fall 2015 Windows 2012 Server Provisioned for Data Science. And I'm not going to bother to put in an image description because my image name has essentially described the image, but I certainly could put in an image description. But let me now just go ahead and click Create Image. And I'll get a dialog that is telling me that the process of creating that image is underway. Now, if you click Close, this dialog will go away and we'll be back at the table of instances. The AMI that you have created can be seen down here in this section on the left-hand side that says Images under AMIs. And what you should see here is the AMI that you just created. I named mine Fall 2015 Windows 2012 Server Provision for Data Science, and you can see that this AMI is here. This AMI serves as a backup for the work that you have done provisioning your instance. I'm going to save for a future video instructions that show you how to launch new instances from this AMI. But at this point, you have saved the AMI essentially as a backup for the work that you've done provisioning your instance. So this concludes this last video on things to do to wrap up the creation of your Windows instances at Amazon Web Services. At this point, your instance is ready for the things that we're most likely to want to do using Python or the statistical language R.